Welcome to the Catapult Effect, a podcast where professionals like you turn challenges into opportunities for extraordinary growth. If you're tired of struggling, feeling lost, and ready to catapult yourself into the best version of you, then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Katie Wrigley.
Welcome to the Catapult Effect podcast. I am your host, Katie Wrigley, and I have another amazing guest with me today, Michael Ian Cedar. So Michael and I were introduced years ago when I was still disabled, and he has created this amazing group on Facebook that we're going to make sure that we talk about in here. And he also has some incredible programs like Life on Your Terms that are specifically designed for busy professionals to help you start to live the life that you want on your terms. So as usual, I'm bringing in guests that are going to help catapult you forward as experts in their own arena. And so welcome, Michael, executive coach as well. I forgot to mention that. Welcome to the Catapult Effect podcast, Michael. I love when I get to connect with you.
Yeah, oh, it's always amazing. It always feels right. So thank you for having me here. And I'm grateful that I'm one of the people that you see that can help the audience, your audience and your listeners.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, part of who I'm trying to help was the former me, and I've taken your life on your terms as you were starting to build it, and it was such a huge, impactful exercise for me. I could not have you on the podcast.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, and that's grown quite a bit since that. You came in, I think, version number 1.
Yeah, I think I was actually. Yeah, and I've seen some of the things that you've done, and I definitely want to highlight some of the benefits of that program and what you've been seeing. So let's just back up a little bit. And how did you become an executive coach, Michael?
Yeah, I am an executive coach, and I even go a little deeper than that. I try to bucket it so people can understand it. I'm a mindset and leadership coach, and I happen to work with executives. And I'll even go even one step deeper. A lot of people are like, oh, so what are you, I'm here in New York City. It's a very career-centric place. And people go, what do you do? And I go, well, what do you mean? What do you do? I'm like, eat, breathe, sleep, the normal human things. Like, professionally, what do you do? I'm like, well, you know how people spend their entire lives trying to, get a certain salary or a certain job or certain family dynamic. And they're like, and then they hate their lives when they get it. And they're like, yeah, I totally know what that's like. I go, well, that's what I do. I help them. And they're like, oh, I need you. Right? And it's like, and it's almost like it's 100% almost that like when people ask me and I say that, they're like, I'm here. So what got me into that world was I used to be an executive myself in entertainment and a manager and a leader in entertainment, whether it was Broadway bus and truck tours or producing events that toured to 70 cities a year. And I was crispy and I was burning out and I had some serious imposter syndrome. And the part of the job that I liked most was there were certain people that I worked with or that worked for me that truly wanted to be the best version of themselves. And I loved working with them. And so when the time came, or not when the time came, as I was starting to work, I started coaching people. Like I would be like, hey, I really love helping people that want to do great. So I would invite them like to bars and I would buy them drinks to let me just coach them. And then they would be like, hey, can we do this long form? Or they'd be like, hey, I have a friend who this would be perfect for. And so there came a tipping point where I said, I really get great fulfillment in working with people that want to do the best work of their life and mean it. And I, over time, started coaching while having a full-time job as a producer and as an executive.
Wow.
And eventually, January 1st, 2020, I cut the cord and went full-time coaching. And oh my gosh. And what a year to transition, 2020.
Right.
January 1st.
You were ahead of the Great American, what did they call it? The basically a whole bunch of people deciding that they didn't need to be in corporate America anymore. And
I was just ahead.
That's so cool. I don't think I realized that about you. So the first time we worked together was actually 2019.
Right.
And I did not have enough information to fully, you helped me so much, even in those first coaching sessions.
Yeah.
And the biggest takeaway was I have no idea what I'm doing yet. I need to figure out what I'm doing and who I'm focusing on before I can make this a business, which is so valuable to get.
Yes. right? When you look at your life like a business, yeah, very much so. And when we were working in 2019, there would have been 8 or 9 other people working in the other space over
Wow.
here at the time because we had such an operations going on. And I was just like, nah, we're done here. Like this is gonna come to an end. And it was actually a 3-year transition. I actually told the people that I was partnering with at the time, hey, in 3 years I want to be out. And we picked January 1, 2020. So
Nice.
it was a bit strategic and yeah. And to anyone, since so many people listening to this are business professionals, right? Just because things are the way they are doesn't mean it has to be that way. And there are responsible ways to transition yourself into new roles,
Yes.
into new things to fulfill you. And one of the things, Katie, that comes up a remarkable amount, in fact, in that same time that I was working with you, there were 2 women in New York, and they both came here to the office, and they said, hey, I heard you help people live a life on their terms, and I'm a executive in corporate America. One was in finance and the other was in pharmaceuticals. And when I say finance and pharmaceuticals, names I guarantee you possess in your wallet or home of the
Right.
companies,
Yeah.
right? And both of them wanted to leave their jobs. And it just happened to be side by side that these meetings happened to happen. I don't, it was just something fell into my lap, the same theme twice. And I said, why do you want to leave your job? To both of them, obviously separately. And they both had almost identical answers. Hate my boss, hate my staff, company values don't uphold what's important to me. I'm burnt out. Like they all both had the same exact answer. And I said, so what's the result you want? They said, I want to switch jobs. And I said, I can't help you. And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, this is what you do. You were recommended to me. I said, I'll make you a deal. I'll only work with you if you say, I'm willing to make where I am now the best I can possibly make it, and that I can make myself satisfied here. And if you can make yourself satisfied where you are, I'll help you switch your job. I'll help you get a new job. Because back then I was doing more career coaching, like helping people transition.
Nice.
And and I was shocked. Both of them said, okay. And I was like, okay. Now I was like, now I really got to show up. Now I'm like, really? I'm like, why are you listening to me? Right? I'm like, you ever have that as a coach where you're like, you're actually doing what we talked about? Like, why would you do that? Like, and then you're like,
Yeah. And
oh.
it's like, and then it works, and it's like,
And then you go, oh. And
like I
that's
hoped
why.
you would work, but I didn't actually think you were going to follow through. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Follow through with my advice because it actually winds up only 100% of the time
Right.
giving them better results than I had hoped.
Correct. And so in both situations, not only did they not leave their companies, they were promoted into jobs they wanted.
I love that. I love that.
And I don't know where they are now because that was probably 2019,
Yeah, it was.
and every now and then I check in on them, but last time I checked in, they were still there.
Oh, that's so awesome. And it just goes to show, we can be so certain that we need something. And what we actually need is a perspective shift.
It's, when I was when I was in my early 20s, I had a classmate named Brooke, and she was a Southern girl, Southern accent, Southern values, and she just said, Grandma always said, make sure your front porch is always swept. And it's like we think what we want and what we need are 2 different things. And it's like we got to make sure we're clean here.
Yeah.
And we got to make sure that we're doing everything in our integrity to stay aligned with and sincere with who we are and try to get those relationships to work. Unless there's something that's so misaligned, you have to leave, which wasn't the case for these 2 other women that I'm referring to.
Right.
They just they were blaming everything on the external world, and they had to do something with a perspective shift for themselves.
And that's a perfect segue because you actually, I would consider you an expert in one of the best ways that I know to shift your mind, and that is gratitude.
Gratitude.
So I would love to talk a little bit about gratitude and then go into the amazing, gigantic group you have grown on Facebook. It's one of my favorite places to go. And if you are feeling down, I highly recommend we'll make sure the link to the group is in the show notes here so that if you're having a bad day, you can pop on in there. It is full of positive energy. It's full of amazing lives. Michael comes on every week going live. He has a bunch of other people who are chiming in, and it just feels good. It's like getting a hug on the internet together.
Oh, that's a great way of explaining it.
And that's how it feels. Like the last time I went, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I feel like I'm being hugged by everybody in here. It just feels so welcoming. Everybody's so welcoming in there. It's wonderful. So, how did you start to tune in on gratitude being one of the keys to mindset shifts, Michael?
Yeah, and I think about gratitude a little more unconventional compared to like, the beautiful swag that you can buy at Hallmark that's like, I'm so grateful, right?
Mhm.
So gratitude played a role in my life because um, I'm pretty certain that if I actually allowed a professional to diagnose me when I was younger, they'd say I was depressed and I have depression. And people tried to put me on medications, and there was something intuitively inside of me that was like, I'm not interested in that. And maybe because since I was 8 years old, I was always very in tune with, human potential. I mean, when I was 8 years old, I was listening to Tony Robbins audio cassettes,
Oh, wow.
in my dad's tape player. And it was just something I was exposed to. And so there was something in me that's like, I know there's another way out of this darkness. And so whether it's depression or otherwise, it was a darkness. And I'm going to use that as a catch-all phrase. And so I found one of the ways that I was able to cure or move through the darkness was by stating gratitude, focusing on gratitude. Now, along the way, because this is all stuff from my childhood into my early adult lives, I found there's two kinds of gratitude. There's debilitating gratitude where you're just saying the words and lying to yourself, like, oh, I'm so grateful that somebody loves me, versus like, no, they're abusive to you and they use crappy language. Like it's really easy to use gratitude as a cop out to stay in something that's not serving you.
Yeah.
And then the other kind of gratitude I discovered was productive gratitude. And so even in my late 20s, early 30s, I had these bouts where I was like, I couldn't explain why I felt so bad, why I felt so dark, why I felt so blue. And so in 2017, a friend of mine introduced me to this app that I don't even think exists anymore called Periscope, which was the first live streaming app. It was actually acquired by Twitter, and then Facebook just like dominated it. But anyways, I was introduced to it, and all I would do is I would go online and I wrote, I'm going to talk about gratitude. And so I come on, and because I needed it for myself to get out of this experience, I didn't have a way out. I would just go, hey, I'm here to talk about what I'm grateful for. And we would talk about, and I would go like, here's what I'm grateful for. What would you be grateful for? And people would type their answers. We had, in Periscope days, thousands of people show up to this live. And I was like, wow, this is fun. And now I felt good. I felt like I was giving something. People are sharing gratitude. And I'd be like, hey, I'll come on tomorrow this time and do it again. Boom, 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 boom. And it just kept rolling until Periscope started to lose face and I went to Facebook on it. But here's why I find gratitude is such a powerful tool in the times of adversity and darkness. It's because gratitude has a bias towards taking action in our life. And it's not lying to ourselves, like I said. It's going, gratitude and optimism are cousins to each other,
Yes.
right? And optimism, if you look at I believe it's Latin or Greek. I can't remember if it's Latin or Greek. The root of the word optimism is optimum, and optimum just means the best thing. So
Right.
gratitude is, well, what is the best thing I have right now? So in the days that I was living credit card to credit card versus check to check, I would go, well, what is the best thing? Well, the best thing right now is I've got another $100 on this credit card. Okay, now that I see what I have versus what I don't have, I can do something with what I have.
Yeah.
What do I have right now? My boss says I'm a jerk. Okay, what am I grateful for? My boss is communicating with me. Because now I can go, now that I know they're communicating with me, what can I do with that? I can say back, I can say, hey, I'd like to have a meeting and let you know when you said that to me, this is how it made me feel.
Right.
Versus, so you have either a lack mindset, I don't have a work environment I like, I don't have a boss I like, I don't like my life. Then you, not to sound woohoo, but you get more of what you focus on. That's it, right? If I were to say right now, for those of you listening, this won't work for you the same way. Or actually, heck, I could do it like this. I want you to count how many times I say the word count in the next section. How many times did I say count already, right? Now if I go, great, how many times did I say the word and? You won't be able to tell me because you're focused on the word count, right? If I were to say, look at everything in my room that's yellow, and I go, great, now close your eyes, tell me everything that's red, you can only tell me the things that's yellow.
Yeah.
So if I focus on all the bad that's in my life, then you what you focus on expands, and that's not a woohoo statement. What you focus on, this is something that the human brain does. It's a survival technique.
Yeah.
And so to answer the question by going, what's the best thing right now? It has a bias towards action. It takes us out of victim and villain mode, and it puts us into creator and co-creator mode.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, and you're right. So there's a part of the brain called, I may say it wrong, the abbreviation is the RAS, the reticular activating system.
Yep, that's it.
And so when that gets going, and so you're right, like it's the same reason of like, don't think about an elephant. What are you thinking about? An elephant.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't hear the negation. And that's the way the brain works. And it's so easy to start to program it in. And it's also, like, because this show works with first responders and business professionals as well. That's why a lot of police officers get to a point where they go into a very, very small, isolated world because they're seeing all the bad guys out there all the time. So that's their awareness. So they're seeing it more and more and more. Whereas you and I, we don't have to deal with all the criminals and all the scary stuff out there on a day-to-day basis. And so we don't see that as quickly as they do. And
it's why I don't watch the news, because the news knows, right? Advertisers pay the news, and the news knows fear sells.
Yep.
So I just go to my mother and my mother-in-law, what do I need to know today? And they tell me everything. They still tell me more than I need to know. But I don't want to fill my mind that this is the world, because that's not the world. Einstein said, I might get the quote a little wrong, but Einstein said the most important decision you're going to make in your life is to make the decision, is the universe hostile or friendly?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
I might be getting the quote a little wrong there, but I know the intention is right.
Yeah. I love your mom, by the way. But that cracked me up because I do the same thing. Like if I want to know what's going on in the world, I can just ask my parents. My mom's plugged into Fox News all day long. Not saying anything about Fox News. I'm not even going to go into it. I just know that I can't watch it with her because it's on for 30 seconds and I am immediately pissed off. And I'm like, I can't. I can't.
Yeah.
So
that's the role. And that's the role of produced news, is to keep your attention and make you a heightened state so you are addicted to it.
Yeah. No, thanks. I'm all set. So tell us a little bit about Gratitude Slam. How many members do you have in there now? Last time I looked, I was like, holy cow. Like there's people pouring in left and right.
So the Gratitude Slam is the Facebook group, right? Yeah. You were mentioning before, and it is my way of making sure that this kind of mindset is accessible to anyone, because I don't believe there's anything such as a perfect person, but I think a self-aware person is as close to perfect as you're ever going to get. And so we ask questions to go, well, what do I have? Where am I maybe not serving myself, right? And focusing on the things where we do have control over. So the group is, it's about 5,200 members strong right now. Yeah, which is really cool, because I remember when I was like really excited when we hit like 50 people. But here, the thing that's most interesting about the group is on an average month, we have roughly 50% engagement. Now, why I think that's cool is the average Facebook group that is successful, it's 5%. It's really? 5% engagement. That's right. The average Facebook group should have 5% average engagement. We have 50%.
Wow.
Now, I want to grow the group bigger. It's very important to me because I think more people... I truly am on a crusade to help people be able to choose their focus.
Yeah.
And I think with the advent of everything that beeps and buzzes and has a red dot in our life that shows up and saying you have 40 people yelling at you, and then another 40 dot in that app that says you got another 60 people yelling at you. Like, we have to choose our focus, and gratitude is a choice to focus on, right? And so yeah, it's sort of my labor of love, um, because I just want to create an environment where people can feel gooder. I know that's not a word for those of you that are literary, but that's really what it is. It's like, I don't need you to feel excellent. I just need you to feel gooder, because if you can feel gooder today, then you can feel even gooder tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's all I want, is people to feel gooder.
Yeah. And I love that. I even love that you're saying gooder instead of the whatever it would be. But so I want to just share with the audience really quick what the impact of your gratitude teachings have been directly on my life. So as I'd mentioned,
Hmm.
Michael and I actually did some one-to-one coaching in 2019, but the year that I was disabled was 2018. And so another coach of mine, Melanie Curtis, who's awesome, she was like, "Hey, I think you may like this group, check it out. I think it may help you with where you are right now." And at that point, like, my life was friggin' annihilated. I couldn't move very much. My pain levels were through the roof. I not so affectionately refer to that point in my life where I had blown it up twice. There was a
Mm.
marriage that really shouldn't have existed,
Mm.
coupled with a relationship that I tried to use, and it was just a hot mess all the way around. And that leveled my body after ignoring all the stress that I had been under and had been ignoring for about 40 years at that point. And so my body just kind of gave me the double middle finger, sat my ass down, and demanded that I start doing things differently.
Yeah.
Gratitude and starting that gratitude practice was one of the biggest keys that got me out of bed and starting to move again. And 6 years later, I still have an alarm on my phone that goes off every night. And I started to go to bed earlier, so I set my alarm for gratitude earlier. And every night I say out loud 3 things I'm grateful for. And sometimes on a bad day, I'm grateful the day's over. But it counts.
Yeah.
I'm grateful.
Yeah.
But and it's so easy at this point. So it's been 6 years of practicing it now. It is so easy to be able to make perspective shifts, to be able to see the positive. Like, one of my friends calls me like the reframer, because she's like, "Oh my gosh," she's like, I'll be so upset about something, and then I just tell you about it, and you see it through a completely different lens. And gratitude was the biggest key, I think, in helping me get there and
Mm.
really shifting. And then I've just continued to build on that. But that gratitude practice has stayed in place, Michael. And that is 100% thanks to you.
I am I am so grateful that you're sharing that with me. 'Cause that's lighting me on the inside. I didn't know that. That's really
Yeah. So
touching. Yeah.
it's been big. It's been big. And you have another program called Life on Your Terms, or LOIT. And
Uh-huh.
this is also something else that I did. And this was early into 2021 when I was on the cusp of leaving corporate. And again, your program really helped me get some of the
Yeah.
pieces that I needed that helped me move. And that, combined with cognitive movement, is how I was able to leave corporate about 4 months after I was in Lloyd. So can you tell us about Life on Your Terms and what that looks
Yeah.
like now?
It's actually related to the Gratitude Slam. So the Gratitude Slam is free, and then we have a group coaching program called Life on Your Terms. And I do that because I wanted it. Like, Gratitude Slam grew so big, I used to respond to everyone and like coach them through the Gratitude Slam, even though they didn't hire me as their coach. I would just give them coaching prompts, and it just grew. It grew so big that I couldn't do that
Right.
anymore. And now we even do have a moderator in there who's helping guide people who may have never had any kind of coaching before in their life. But the Life on Your Terms is all about um, exactly what it sounds like, living a life on your terms, where a lot of people come into my world and they're like, "Oh, that's too selfish for me." And I'm like, "Tell me more. Why is that so selfish?" And they're like, "Well, I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve my life's purpose. I'm here to serve a higher source, whatever it is." And I go, "Well, what makes life on your terms so selfish?" "Well, it's all about me." And I'm like, "So life on your terms, there's four core, like, themes that show up. And the first one is one, it's I can control the inner critic, right? Because if the inner critic is controlling you, then you are the affect of that itty bitty crappy committee that's up there in the mind, always telling you, hey, you're not good enough. Hey, work harder. Hey, work later. Hey, ignore the pain. Hey, and we blow up our lives. So one, can I control the inner critic? Doesn't mean get rid of it, just means can I control it? Two is, can I love the inner child? Meaning I accept that I have wounds from younger years or traumas that have happened in my life, right? The body keeps score, like the book is called.
Yep.
Like, can I love the fact that I accept this is a super complicated thing and it needs some form of a guidance or leadership from me as an adult figure? Right. And I'm not speaking the woo-hoo, oh, there's an inner child in there. And I'm not taking away if you do believe that. But right, we do as biological creatures hold on to stuff from our younger years. And like, can I build a relationship with that and appreciate that that's inside of me? The third is, can I recognize my potential and act on it? Right. And then third is, can I recognize my needs and act on them? And I'm like, you can't give to others what you do not give to yourself, right? And so people are like, so the people that come into my care in the Life on Your Terms program, business professionals, some people who are purely homemaker, I don't care. It's a great equalizer because when everyone's in the room, whether they're poor, whether they're paying literally, like there's one person, it literally just came in. There's one person who literally sends me only the cash that they have available, which is still less than the entry fees, the cost of entry. And I'm just like, hey, if this is what you need right now, fine. And literally once a month, I get an envelope with a few bucks in it. Oh. And I'm like, but I'd even give it them for free, but I want an energy for an energy. But anyways, the reason I'm saying this is, if you want to serve, and whatever that means to everyone here, if you can't have your basic needs met, like I can't go in the bathroom, eating. I can't tell you how many people I coach who get urinary tract infections because they don't drink water and they don't go to the bathroom. And they're like, well, there's not enough time. Wow. Well, if I'm doing it, then I'm taking care of me and not someone else. I go, and what's the quality of the care you're giving that person when you're a crispy little critter going to the doctor and like, it's amazing when people come in, I'm overweight. Well, what are you doing for that? Well, I'm working out. Are you drinking water? No. Why not? Because if I drink water, I got to go to the bathroom. Like, this is real crap that people say. Oh, and not only do people say it, I am a former workaholic, 24/7, 7 days a week. No, not 24/7. 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, almost 364 days out of the year. So I actually have great compassion for it. But now that I'm at this place in my life, I'm like, I can't believe people are saying this. And I'm like, oh my God, I used to say the same freaking thing. And so Life on Your Terms is a program. It's an immersive program. We meet once a week. And then there's things that happen in between that time as well, for us to immerse our minds in the idea that by taking care of this vehicle allows me to drive further distances and take care of more people and live a fulfilled life. There's only two goals I have, Katie. One, I want people to feel gooder. Two, I want people to feel fulfilled. That's it.
Yes.
And if there's more people feeling gooder and more people feeling fulfilled, I feel like I've done my job.
I love that. I love that. And I want to just chime in on a couple of things that you said, so that when you look at that inner child work from the quantum realm, there is a lot of science that says, like, going back in time and doing what they call that inner child work of going back to whatever pain you had at that point in time, right, asking the little version of you, what did you need? Yeah. So they've started to see that when you get rid of linear time, which is what we all run on here on Earth, but when you get into that quantum realm where there's only the present, this is the only time that exists, is right now. There was no past, there was no future, which I still can't wrap my head around, but I'm trying. But I have absolutely felt the benefits directly of doing that inner child work, and going back, or parts work is another way that I've heard it referred to. And you help mesh those parts of yourself that got shattered by the traumas and the negative events. So I love that that's part of Loit, because that's huge. And I mean, there's been times where I've, been in like a meditative state, and I'm going back to the little girl that was being severely traumatized at the time, and just like, what do you need? It's like, I need a hug.
Yeah.
And so just in my mind's eye, I'm just holding the little version of myself. But what I feel in my body coming out of that
It's,
is undeniable. So there's a lot of power there just in that one piece that you were talking about, let alone the others that are in there too. But I wanted to speak directly to that one because that is the one that tends to get the little, huh? There's a
well,
lot
and
to
I'll
it.
even, I'd like to even simplify it a little bit more because it's something that I practice myself. Like when something gets triggered inside of me for whatever reason,
Mhm.
I've grown accustomed. It's like the most direct route. It's like what are they called? Overpasses or connect. I forget what they're called on highways. I'm a New Yorker. I don't drive, right? So right, but there's like ways to get to certain
Yep.
highways faster by going over these special roads. So my bypass. That's what it's called.
There you go.
My bypass is, what childhood wound is not healed that's coming up right now? And I go, oh, I'm being rejected. And I didn't like rejection back. And it's like, boom, there it is. And I think it's the easiest way to explain it to people. It's just like, because there's an answer to it. What unhealed childhood wound is coming up that I'm feeling this? And it always comes back to like, oh, if I don't like being disliked, because if I'm disliked, then I didn't have the book smarts to get through. So my only thing was, and I always find an answer.
Yeah.
And there's one story I want to share, and I'm not saying it to impress upon the weight of the person, but there was someone I was recently coaching, and I was told by an agent, third party agency, like, hey, we want to match you with this coachee, but they're very high profile, and they're in an industry you've not worked in, but we think you're right for them because it was in sports, which I have no background in. And this was a person that's in the news on a regular basis, and it was an executive. It wasn't a player. And I almost said no. I was like, I don't. And I like looked him up, and I was like, I don't think that's my guy. Like, I'm not. That's not what I'm into. And something in me was like, hey, just take the call. Take the call. See if the chemistry works. I get on the call, and the guy's a hot mess, total hot mess. And I'm coaching, and he's just so inner wounded, so hurt. So he just goes, I'm talking to him about what it's like to do coaching as an executive. And I go, and he just goes, look, can you just get me to a place that I feel neutral? I don't even care about happiness right now. Just can you stop this from happening? And yeah, and I'm like, I can't believe I almost said no to this, right? I'm like, I got to trust that when I get matched like that, there's a reason for it to happen. And I said, look, I can't stop that, but you can. And I know that I have the tools that can get you to neutral. Are you willing to do what it takes to get there? And he goes, I will do anything. I just want to get to neutral. Now, this is a guy who, on paper, in the every, everything is perfect, right?
Right.
But the inside isn't clean. And so we worked together for about a year. And about 3 months in, I said, give me 3 months. But by 2 months, he goes, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. And so I think he's a great avatar since, of we all have it's perspective. You said it before.
Yeah.
We have to change our perspective, change your focus, change your life, change the way you think, change the way you feel. And I think people, even in the worst situations in their life, we have the ability to feel gooder or neutral, right? And from neutral, he went to great. He found a new love in his life. So
Wonderful.
we have the ability to live a life on our terms. And it's hard to believe that when we're not in the present moment.
Yep.
We're living in the past or we're living in the future.
Yep. Yes. Yes. I love that. That's a great note to start to wrap. Where can people find you, Michael?
Gratitude Slam on Facebook. Just Google Gratitude Slam or go on Facebook and find Gratitude Slam. And for the Life on Your Terms Academy, just lifeonyourterms.com. But you can find that through the Gratitude Slam as well. And anyone can direct message me. I'm You know, a lot of people in our industry criticize me that I'm too accessible. And I'm like, okay, if that's your best shot at me is that I want to help people. Okay.
That's funny. That's funny. That's great criticism to be getting, like, oh, you're too accessible. Like, oh, okay.
I'm like, what? Okay. I go, yeah. So
That's one of the things I've always appreciated about you is because you are so approachable. Like there may be other coaches out there that I don't feel nearly as comfortable because there's like almost like this, it's like a come here but not too close
you
kind of thing.
know,
Whereas you're like, hi.
yeah, come on in. You know what? Let me just share this in case anyone ever wants coaching from you, from me, from any coach. I just care. Whenever people meet with me, I'm like, I just want to make sure you get the care that you need right now, whether I'm that person or not. You know, so I've even referred people to you, right? You know,
Yep.
so because I'm like, it's not my ballywig, that Katie. So, I always say, oh my gosh, what was I saying? Picking a coach. Oh, picking a coach. So this is me. So years back when I was training to be a coach, I wanted a coach to train me to be a coach. And I was referred to someone that I trusted, by someone I trusted. And this person's 6-month coaching was $18,000 at the time. That was everything I basically got. And I was ready to spend it. And so we'd have the chemistry session. I meet with this coach. And she's like, I don't want to give too much too early. Like, she's like, I don't want to give away the store right now. Like, and I was so turned off by that. I was like, the information should be like totally free and accessible to anyone. Your time and exclusivity of that time, I agree. I should pay for that for you to put together what's right for me. And so I did not hire that person. And I literally was ready. I knew how much she cost. But when she was withholding information because I had not paid her yet, I was like, that's not the coach for me.
Yeah.
And I always think any coach should be given the information. Any coach this is my belief. There's going to be people who hate me for this, but I think any coach, if they're not willing to give the information away for free, then they're in it for the wrong reasons. My time is the exclusivity, which, by the way, now I'm pleased to say I charge way more than $18,000. So that
And you're worth it too.
We're willing to charge. But anyways, since there's people coming here to look for solutions and healing, I think that's a great sign. If you want someone to help heal, then those people should be willing to heal for no money. It's their time that they're paying for, the exclusivity, the access.
Yep. Yeah. And I've actually taken a clue from you, and I have my own book, my group. It's much smaller than yours. It's not quite 300 members, but I do a live every week.
Right.
It is free. It is there to help people. And then I have my YouTube channel that has a bunch of little mini cognitive movement sessions. So for people who can't afford to work with me one-on-one, they can still benefit. And one of my clients, actually, she could only afford to do one session with me. And she had actually wound up, somehow there was a glitch in the system, but she had overpaid. And I offered to give her back the difference because I said, I don't feel right taking this. And I told you this on the call, and it doesn't feel like it's in alignment with my integrity not to. And she was like, would you actually just make me a few more little mini videos instead? I was like, absolutely. And so I made ones that were a little bit longer for her. And she's like, oh my gosh, I feel so much more grounded. I feel like I'm getting so much more clear. These were so helpful. Thank you so much. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, I need to keep a roof over my head, but that's one of the things I've always loved about Tony Robbins too, is that everything Tony Robbins is out there for free. You have to pay for the experience. And if you want to be up close with them, you're going to really pay for his VIP.
Yeah.
And he's earned that right. And everything Tony Robbins is out there in a $low or $0 format if you cannot afford to go to a Tony Robbins event. And I loved that. And when I saw like other coaches like you that I respected, Michael, I'm like, that's how I want to do my business. And it's hard because you've got a lot of coaches like, you can't give things away for free. It's like,
I just don't know another way. I don't know. I truly can say I don't know another way.
Yeah.
I just don't.
I mean, you shouldn't have to have a lot of money to benefit and get yourself well.
Yeah, I agree. I call it people who withhold. I call it sin. Well, I don't call it. I've heard it somewhere else. Sin of omission, right? Sin of omission. When you know something that can heal someone and you don't share it, That's sin of omission.
Yeah. And there is a I'm not going to mention them because I don't want to disparage anybody that's negative, but there's someone who's huge out there that has a massive following, but you can't get any of his stuff for free. And I do not look at any of his work, no matter how much it could benefit me, because that is such a, like, it repels me to a point where, like, anytime his name is brought up, I'm like, thanks, but no.
And look, I'm not, and that person, whoever they are, they're not bad people. They just don't share the values that I have. Hey, good for them. They're probably making more than me, but
they have a different value system, and more power to them. But that's not in alignment with me. It's not in alignment with you, and that's okay.
Look, here we are doing this, and this is free.
Right, exactly.
Proof of the pudding, my friends. Proof of the pudding.
Oh yeah, and I have a podcast.
And you have a podcast. That's right.
Oh, the irony of that! Like, oh my gosh, I'm like sitting here talking about freebies, and while we're in a freebie.
Perfect.
Oh, too funny. Thank you so much for your time today, Michael. I'm going to make sure all the links are in here so that you guys can go grab the Gratitude Slam. You can check out Life on Your Terms. It is fantastic. You will not regret it. Reach out to Michael and get to know him a little better as well. Like he said, he is accessible, and that is one of the many things about him that you'll absolutely love. But his live videos that he does, they're so engaged. So many people are in those videos that are watching live at the time. It's really cool. I actually want to make an effort to start to watch those a little bit more. Is it still 7 a.m. on Tuesday mornings?
No, so Life on My Terms, I now do 9:01 a.m. I was like, why am I killing myself for this? It's like, wait a second. This is my program. Why am I killing myself for this? And we actually have more people that show up at the later time.
Well, that explains why I never catch them live, as I'm usually in bar class with my mom on Tuesdays at 9.
That's the reason why. Yeah.
That's why. So, but thank you so much for the work you're doing. Thank you for being you. Thank you for the referrals you've given me. Thank you for your time on this podcast and everything that you're doing. I have immense gratitude for you and the people who created you, Michael.
So, my friend, thank you. I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you. And I just would love to add, what is one action item that you would want someone who's listening today, who has that angst you talked about in that executive? What's one action you would want them to take today to get that angst starting to break?
Yeah, I would say, what's the result you really want?
Ooh,
like, answer that question and maybe answer it 10 different times. What's the result you really want? One of the biggest lessons I learned from working with a company that's a data analytics company. And so, it's really fun as a coach. I learn more from the person I'm coaching than the person learns from me. It's unfair, but that's just the way it works. I'm sure I imagine you feel the same. Like I do. And so one of my coaches, I learned, one of the things I was taught is that in the data analytic world, one of the biggest failures is people are trying to solve the wrong problem. Like those two women I was talking about earlier, they're trying to solve something that's the wrong problem. What they really need to do is, well, where is my role in this? And so what's the real result you want right now? Because if it's you want to feel better, your boss can't help you with that. And a new job's not going to help you with it either. If you want to have more money, is it that you want real money? I don't think money is the issue, right? Do you want to clear up some debt? Okay, that's different than more money, right? And so what's the real result you want? And to ask yourself that, journal it, maybe ask yourself it once a day for 7 days or 10 times a day for 7 days. Because clarity is power if you put action. Clarity is potential power. Clarity is power if you put action behind it. So get the clarity, take the action.
Solid advice. Get the clarity, take the action, and go deep on whatever you come up with your answer. Like he said, keep going into it. What does that thing give you? And until you get down deep and have that, you haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, you'll know when you get there.
Yeah, you will.
You'll know.
Yeah.
You know, it's really awesome. It's a moment of clarity. Woo.
It is. It's a really fun process too. So I love that is how we are ending. So thank you again, Michael, for your time today. Thank you, audience, for your time as well and for listening. I know you have a lot of choices of what to listen to out there on the internet today, and I appreciate your time and attention as always. Until next time, be well, take care, and I will see you soon.
Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend and leave a 5-star review, which helps grow the podcast and reach others just like you. While you're at it, connect with Katie on social media. You can find her on LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram as at Coach KT Dubs. That's COACHKTDUBS. This has been the Catapult Effect with Katie Wrigley. Thanks for listening.